We want to tell you something which is a combination between the theoretic model of nudging and the practice of consultancy in the work environment. So it's a good transition between theory and practice, I think. So we're one of the one of the practitioners, right? Yeah.
Introduce myself.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So my name is Pauline. I am living in The Hague, but I'm actually born in Amsterdam, so I'm sort of back home, which is really nice. I started with criminology, and then I studied my master's of cognitive psychology in the University of Leiden. And after that, I really wanted to go into the practitioner's role because I thought science is great, but it's really great if you can actually make changes in the world we live in. And therefore I started to work with Workwire, which is a consultant agency which really goes around the work environment. So how can we create the ideal work environment for people, and how can we make sure that people are working as they should and as they can in their environments.
Cool. I have a different background. I have a background in interior architecture, so I'm more of the bricks and the stones and all of the furniture choices. I'm one of the founding and managing partners of Workwire, and what I think engages you and empowers you to do your work in a certain way. So that's the combination we often look for. So maybe we can take a look at our company. Yeah, sure. We're a combination of organizational consultancy and workplace consultancy, and we believe in an empowering workplace. And that's a place where you have the possibility to do your work in a certain way and have the willingness to do your work in a certain way. In the Netherlands, we see a lot of companies which introduce new ways of working, which mostly commit to a certain way people can work, but not really focus on the way people want to work. That's why we introduced a model of workplace nudging. Who of you knows nudging as a theory?
Yeah,
good, we
good.
expected that. So we're not going to tell you what nudging is. But we're going to tell you something about why we introduced nudging into the workplace environment. Because we think we can try to change and stimulate behavior which matches the workplace environment, so the way how you can do your work and how you want to do your work. So these are all different models of ways of working which are implemented in the last 15 to 20 years in Holland. We see the evolution of the employee, so we do our work differently. We have major trends like digitalization. We have different ways of working, Scrum, Agile, whatever you can name, has an effect on the way we do our work. And in the way we want to have the environment to support us doing that work. So it's an interesting evolution we saw, but the one thing we paid very much attention to was the way people can and will do their work, or are willing to do their work. So can somebody name, do we have a lot of like native Dutch people or not native Dutch people who can name a trend or a change in their work environment in the last maybe 2-3 years?
Flex factor.
Yes. Flexible working, yes.
More working at home, like home working.
Yes, yes.
Desk bikes.
Sorry?
Desk bikes.
That's nice, yeah, vitality at work. It's a huge transition because
Absolutely.
we used to go to work, do our work, and then go home and be done. And now we have more ways. We can work anywhere we want. We can work standing. We can sit. We can work on a bike. It's like, and that obviously affects really much how the work environment should look like, because we see that it's way more important how your work environment looks, especially for the millennial situation. People want to work in a place where they come in and say, oh yeah, this is cool, this is where I work. So it's really different from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. So the trends we saw was really focused on the way we facilitate the way of working. So we create desk bikes, we create ways that we can work at home, we create flexible working hours, we have laptops, we have everything to change our process of working. The bricks by behavior programs are much used in the Dutch surroundings, Agile, Scrum, Lean, whatever. And the focus was still on the way we can facilitate people in the workplace consultancy world. Focus on what kind of chairs should I put there, what kind of AC would I put in the building. All different things that really don't stimulate me as a person to be proud or be happy in the environment I work in. So the focus of the organization was really on how can you do your work, and not really on the willingness of the employee to commit in a certain way of working. Does somebody recognize this? I see someone nodding. Can you give an example of the way maybe you can do your work in a certain way, but you really don't want to use the facilities you... Sorry?
I didn't realize that.
Yes, you were nodding. I saw you. The lady in front of you was nodding as well. So.
I can say something.
Yeah, sure.
I think I was nodding because I can relate it.
Okay.
Just by working.
In which way?
Well, I mean, most of the times, I think it's about, I don't know, setting up an organization, you know,
Right?
Yeah.
making sure that people have the equipment to
Right.
function in the organization.
Right.
I've never been asked in my life ever, how I want to work and how I would work.
Right.
Or,
Has anybody ever had that question? How do you want to work? Instead of this is what we give you and now work work in the way we facilitate you. You?
No, never.
But you, no, sorry.
Never.
You look a little bit frowning.
I had no job description to say that.
Okay.
So I don't know if that counts, but it's basically just like create value and we'll see from
Right. Right. It's a nice trend.
It's sort of a new trend.
Right.
It's like a vague job. What do you do? Yeah, I work here. I do
And
something. I don't know. I mean, I don't really have a job description. It's really,
But do you
yeah.
get to pick your own facilities, like your own working environment or your own IT
No,
stuff?
yes, I could choose between a Mac or a Dell.
Okay, right. Somewhat of a choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I see your hand. Yeah.
Yeah, we've got agile seating in our office now, and I can't come to terms with it, so I get up early and so I can't sit in the same place.
Right.
And that's sort of fun.
Yeah. Perfect behavioral example of the standard pattern you use to control your own situation instead of working through the concept that probably doesn't want you to go early and sit on the same place every day, probably. We see that a lot and often, and the main thing is why don't we turn it around? Why does facilities or FM or HR or IT always decide for us how we do our work instead of how we want to do our work?
I think actually one time I have been asked, but if you work in a very large organization,
Yes.
you do not really know if they really listen or if it's just a part of going
So,
through
or
motions.
HR.
You start all kind of talking
Right.
groups and you just let them talk and
Right.
just put
Right.
it in the rubbish.
You're heard and then go,
Yeah.
yeah.
At least that sometimes I feel.
Yes, yes, I can imagine.
yeah, good feeling.
Which one of you goes first?
I think we have the illusion of it because I think we get like 400 euros per year we can allocate to whatever we want.
Right.
Either as a-
You'll bring your own device?
sport thing or
Yeah.
Oh, right, yes.
more travel expenses or a bicycle or something like that. So
Right.
it's kind of illusion that they ask
Right.
us.
Right. Because of the main areas are probably still decided for you,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but it's also funny how, most of the commercial companies would say, well, we should have the consumer or the end user in mind, but they actually don't realize that, like, okay, as a company, maybe you should also have your own employee in mind because that's going to drive
Absolutely.
your own.
Yeah, turn the system around.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of the advisory work we do, turn the system around so that your company is employee-centered and not like system-centered or whatever centered. Yeah,
Mhm.
right.
I found that being interim, I always have more freedom than
Yes.
people who are actually on the payroll.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, you probably have your own devices, your own. You fly into the company, do your work, have your.
Every now and then I even get out, do you want an email address and an Outlook calendar? Which is amazing if you say no, because they always give you one because it's system nonsense. And everybody shoots meetings in them and you never see them because you never open it.
Absolutely. The
Yeah.
fun
Nobody
thing is-
missed you at the meeting anyway. It's really
Right.
productive to have an agenda that it
Always say no to Outlook, yes.
Right, right. Interesting situation.
Yeah.
You have to fit into the system.
Yeah.
And if you don't really fit, well, as an interim, it's easier than if you're into the company and one
The
of the
downside is they also mail your
Yes.
logins to the
Right.
mail address that you don't have, so you don't get paid
That's
at
the
the
fun
end.
part.
That was a bit of a difficulty, but
how to crack the code of your
Yeah.
whole world on itself. Yes.
So I think, so actually how do we see the working environment and your behavior? It's like a balance. So your work situation is in perfect balance with the behavior, and that's perfect example. You always do the things in the same manner. You park your car at the same parking lot or your bike, and you go to work, you go to the same group of tables and you work there, and everything is fine and everything works for you. So you think, well, this is great. But then the organization says, okay, let's change the things, let's do something new, let's work flexible, let's work agile, and you get a disbalance. So your working environment is changing, but your behavior doesn't change automatically, because as much easy as it is to change the tables, it's so much harder to change your mindset and to change really your behavior. So what you need is a straight behavior change to actually find that balance again. And we've learned that people are really trying hard to do this, but it's really hard to do it on your own. So that is why we don't believe in the golden rules, because that is what organizations automatically come up with. So we changed our work environment, and to make sure that people understand how they have to work, we made rules. So you have, and most of the time it's a sort of list of things you cannot do. You cannot sit here for over 2 hours. You cannot leave until you come back. You cannot do this, you cannot do that. That is not the way we want to do our work, because you don't want to apply yourself in a sort of list, I cannot do this, I cannot do that. You want to work as a team, as a committee, and you want to really work together. So with the golden rules, another thing is that you need sort of policemen to control the rules and to see, well, you do it right, you don't do it right. And those policemen are often the managers. So the managing board is not really happy with that, because they have to control everybody, while instead they want to work with them. So workplace nudging is really not about the rules and the settings in the school. It's really about what you want to do yourself. So your motivation from your own experience. And that is where we came to the actual nudging part, because we really believe in the choice architecture of it. We see that it's a positive behavioral change that really goes about what you want to do. And we also see it as something you can add on to the working experience instead of building something completely new. So that is why we created our 10 steps of workplace nudging method.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a method that starts at the strategic level of the organization, and then starts with employee engagement, because we believe that people don't change unless they want to change. So if you don't consider engaging your employees or the people you want to be changing their behavior, you don't really develop something that has a good effect or a good outcome. So this is a 10-way step to produce nudges in the work environment, which doesn't matter, stimulates people to make a different choice. And the fun part about it is that the method is centered in, if we implement it in a company, the people in the company themselves think about the solutions. So we don't really come up with the solutions, the people themselves come up with the solution, with the workplace nudges. And then we found that workplace nudges can be in so many different areas. So it can be sensory, it can be a person, it can be furniture, it can be whatever you can think of, or whatever the company and the employees can think of. It's their own concept thinking and their creativity to come up with an intervention that changes their own behavior. And the good part about it, from the strategic level, is that the change in behavior starts when you think about the effect it will have on you. So, well, if you think about the change in front and make an intervention, it's easier. The change starts here, and then you get, what is it?
I think it's actually your behavior change starts the moment you
Right.
think about, okay, why do I sit every time I sit on the same spot? I can easily move around, but I still choose that. Why do I do that? Oh, maybe I can make a different choice, or maybe I cannot be so rigid in my head and be more fluent about it. Or,
Right.
so what we see is really the people come up with the solutions, and the people are really far more engaged in their own change and understand why they have to change and see that it's actually beneficial for themselves, instead of an organization saying you have to do this because we thought it would be best for you.
Right. Maybe
Can I
we
ask a
can-
question there?
Yeah, sure.
So what is the
Not sure.
perception of people engaging in that change? Because it's good for themselves. Is it because through changing they are able to, let's say, get a gain? Or is it that through changing they avoid pain?
Well, I believe you probably know that to avoid pain is the strongest motivation, but
And it's not
we really want to focus on the gain you get. So what we often say is, okay, with flexible working, you might lose your personal workspace, but you gain an entire environment where you can do multiple things, and you can really look at other options and possibilities. You have so much more possibilities than when you stay in the old situation. And to focus on that is for us a sort of positive way to let them see that the change is something good for them. So yeah. Yeah. Yes. 5 minutes. Yes, we have 5 minutes. Yeah, we have some examples. So we can
Almost
also
finished,
just
yeah.
we can just do
A
this.
short question.
Yeah.
Do workers want to be debt free? Or do they want to be ruled?
Well, I think what do you think?
I think there are differences between people. Some people want freedom and other
Right.
people want to be ruled.
I think we want to have a sort of restricted freedom and restricted rules.
I think I think it's not so much how people want to work it, but people want leadership from business. They want
Yeah.
business direction. They want that, but they
Yeah.
don't want to be told you have to sit here and you have
Exactly.
to do this and you have to do that and you.
Yeah.
So it's about the communication.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
But it's really about communicating. Exactly, communication is a tool, and it's really about we should not decide for you how you have to do your work. We decide for you, or the leaders decide for you what you have to what your results should be, but the way you get them should be up to you, because you work in a different manner than your colleague, and it cannot be all together. So I think, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but it's a bit of a debate. So yeah.
So all these choices that we have to make every day, they are cognitive, really demanding actually.
Yeah.
And if we also have to choose every day where we want to sit, whether this is the right place, if my place is not taken by another employer, this can be actually really frustrating. We are
Sure.
like habit animals.
Yes.
It's
Absolutely.
nice to
We
see
are,
that
yeah.
we're
Yeah.
the same desk every day.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit skeptic of all these, how do you
Well-
call them, worker gardens where everybody is walking around and
Yeah, of course.
cognitively
I
and
think
intentionally very demanding.
you're absolutely right, because in theory we don't want a flexible work environment to be the work environment where every 2 hours you change your working place, or every day you go look for a new part of the office where you've never been there. That's not what we try to gain, and that's also what we try to explain to the managers. It's like a flexible environment does not mean you have to move. It doesn't really mean that. But what you see now is that people are so focused on their own spot that once they get there and their workplace is taken over by somebody else because they were not there, they get frustrated. They come in more early, and sometimes people are like, they start at 7 to make sure that they can sit somewhere, and if they cannot sit there, they have to go to the manager straight away and say, I'm sorry, I can't work today. I came here all the way and my workplace is full. So it's a sort of balance between, you have to make sure that nobody is gonna run around and be super flexible, but it's also not desirable that you have no options left. So you always need to have a sort of options. But I hope you can follow me on that.
I can follow you, but first you say like, okay, you have to give the employers the option to choose themselves.
Yeah.
I would like to have the option to have the same desk every day.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
But
and you
If that's
can.
possible, then it's great.
Well, you can if it's possible. I mean, if it's free, then you can. But if it's your
Yeah,
concept,
exactly. So now we run into the problem. So my choice
Yes.
is I want the same desk every day, and
Yeah.
then somebody's sitting there.
yes.
But
And
that's
then you want me to be more.
But that's a concept
open.
question, because you see a lot of companies, like 80% of the Dutch companies work in a way that is stimulated by square meter reduction. This is the main part of why we all have flexible working concepts. Like the other effects it brings is mostly the what's the weerstand?
Resistance.
Resistance,
Yeah.
thank you. This is easy. The resistance against the concept, and that's what our work is. How can you develop a concept on the one hand that is employee centered, so process centered and not square meter reduction centered, and on the other hand, in that concept, create a way which you are able to work on the best way you want to and can. So I think we feel the same way about it. Yes, we have 2 slides, and I see 4 fingers, and we have 1 minute. So we have a challenge.
We are in a problem.
There's chats that you can ask
Yeah,
more
okay.
questions afterwards.
Maybe we can do a quick flick through the.
Oh yeah, sure. We have some examples.
Maybe we can do the
Yeah.
last. Yeah, these are examples from I think it's the Dutch IRS. I'm not sure. The Belastingdienst.
Well, please have a look through the examples. That'd be really good.
Cool.
We'll-
Right.
Okay,
Maybe
cool.
we can go to the web shop. These 3. These are workplace nudges we developed ourselves, and we have them in the web shop, and they're developed around common behavioral challenges in the work environment. So first we have a table. In a lot of the concepts you don't really have a space, a pop-up space, to have a team work or team possibility to create or whatever. So we created a spot in which you can put in the hallway or on various places, which you can do your work, you can do your process in a certain way, which the normal concepts don't really have room for. And the middle one is a social nudge. It has different tiles with compliments and cards, which you can give to your colleagues if you come into the company. So it's a very fun one you can put in your hallway to stimulate the social binding. Right, thank you. And the last one is the lawaai papegaai. It's a sound parrot or the noise parrot. It gives compliments when you walk by it. So it's hilarious. We have it ourselves. Sometimes it drives you nuts because it has a little squeaky parrot voice. But it's a fun item to put in your hallway when you come in, and it says to you, "Ah, you look nice today. How was traffic?" It's a very fun way because all of our nudges and the thought of in the concept of workplace nudging is it's always fun, it's always positive, and it always has something to do with your behavior. So I want to have a noise parrot in my hallway when I had had 2 hours in traffic or whatever. It makes me laugh. And that's one of the most important things, that it changes my behavior and my outlook on how my day will be. So these are just 3. We have like 20-ish examples.
Yeah.
But these are good examples as well. Like it's an easy or a fun way to get down the stairs. And we can do this in all our offices. Why don't we have slides all the way down? I would take it every day. I would go up through the slide, but that's just me. So if you want to take a look, workplacenudging.com is our website. And well, we have, this is the website, and you can, it's in Dutch, so that's a challenge for a few of you, but the few of you will be for you if you want to train your Dutch. It's a good one. We also give introductional courses on the topic, and we hope we gave a little bit of well, what is it?
A sort of insight in our world.
Insight, yeah, right.
To finish up with it.
Right.
We actually have one very large ambition. We want to make behavioral change measurable. I'm not sure if anyone here has the same feeling, but really what you want to do is actually see the change in the environment instead of only hearing about the change. So this is something we are really working on right now to see, can we improve our method, can we improve our way of thinking about it. And we thought, since we are here in a network, does anyone have suggestions for us?